Are you tired of feeling tired? Confused by the conflicting health information in the media? Maybe you can't walk into a grocery store without being overwhelmed by product label claims. Living a fast-paced, overstressed life? Are you or your loved ones being diagnosed or labeled with chronic illnesses? Finding balance and health in today's culture is a challenge we all face. Welcome to Quality Living with Leslie, where we debunk the myths, bring clarity to the confusion, and help expand the gap between health and illness. To get in on the show, call 888-565-1470. Now, let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Quality Living with Leslie. I'm Leslie Harrington. I am a certified functional wellness educator and diabetes paraprofessional. What that means is I empower people to be their own advocate, manage their numbers, and address all aspects of health so they can prevent and reverse disease. Tonight's show, I have Felice Minkin. She is going to be on tonight where you can hear us on 95.3 FM, 1470 AM, iHeartRadio app at WNNN 1470, or as you can watch us live here on Facebook at Quality Living with Leslie. Definitely remember you can join the conversation calling at 888-565-1470 anytime with questions. I will start with my disclaimer. This is always very fun, and I always get all, tongue-tied. So I am not a medical doctor and do not engage directly or indirectly in diagnosing disease, dispensing medical advice, or prescribing the use of any products or services as treatment for sickness or disease. This information is solely for informational purposes and is for people of normal good health. The information is not intended to be a substitute for proper medical care provided by a physician. You should always cooperate with the health professional of your choice with a mutual goal of building personal health. That being said, without further ado, I'd like to introduce tonight's guest, Felice Minkin. Felice is a certified integrative nutrition health and wellness coach. She's a certified yoga instructor as well as a meditation teacher, which is I love the idea of the mix because you're covering so many pillars of health right there just in what you do.
Thank you.
So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So I start off usually just to ask, tell me a little bit about your background, give me an idea of your story and what brought you here and what made you decide to get into health coaching.
Okay. Well, I have been studying health and wellness ever since I can remember, since I guess teenage years, due to having digestive issues in my stomach. And I think first time I went to a doctor for my issues was when I was 15, diagnosed with IBS, which is so all-encompassing. It didn't really mean much. And but I started learning and reading articles and, asking doctors and speaking with people and even magazines, anywhere that I could get information. And taking classes even in school just around health and nutrition or exercise, anything that I can get to manage and feel better. And I've been on that path forever, I feel like. And even when I went to college, I ended up going to graphic design, but I applied to schools that were strong in nutrition and design because I couldn't decide which way I was going to go.
Your secret passion inside.
Yeah, and I felt that I just went the other way. But in the meantime, I always studied it and helped people on the side in my personal life. And I had a friend a couple years ago who said, "Why are you not doing this?" And I never considered that I would help people professionally. And I had known about the School for Integrative Nutrition in New York and looked into it and dove in. And so I kind of just took off from there.
Fantastic.
And, it never feels like work to me. I could be up for hours in the middle of the night reading and studying and learning and teaching.
I struggle with that too.
Right?
You don't feel like it's work, and it becomes so natural. And everyone's like, "You need time for you." I'm like, I got a lot of me. I'm like, I listen to podcasts. And I'm constantly educating myself.
Exactly.
And I love it.
Exactly. And it actually worked out that I went into graphic design because while you're retouching photos and whatnot, you can do a lot of work while listening to stuff. Yep. So I would have my headset on, listening to the best speakers and teachers in the world. Some of them from school and some of them outside of school. And it's just so interesting to see. And then working in the corporate world and actually witnessing what is going on with people's nutrition and wellness and their health and wellness. We were talking before about how it is a little bit different. Wellness is all encompassing. How do you feel in your relationships and your
Exactly.
movement, in your exercise, your purpose in life, how you feel about your spiritual self and your health, which can be a little bit more medical, but it counts.
Yeah.
And your nutrition. And it was very interesting to see and encounter and have people's reactions and questions and
You're
answers.
like that girl that everyone goes to, right?
Yeah, like they used to call me Earth Mother, and I would be embarrassed for a long time. And I've learned as time has gone on to start to own it. That's who I am.
And
That's who I've been.
Yeah.
So,
And I think with health coaching, there's probably, some people are probably like, we're into that. I feel like it's come up a lot more lately. You hear a lot more about health coaching and life coaching, and people are becoming more aware of it's not so much a stigma to ask for help, to have someone coach you, to work with therapists, to work with all those things that, like, back in the day, people would be like, oh, I don't need any help, and things like that. And and I know I've learned so much more about health coaching, and one of the things about people that are doing this is there's that passion, and it's 9 out of 10 times driven from somewhere inside because they've had their own experience with a health complication, or, and you mentioned IBS. It's like everyone, my friends' children and the adults, and I was in the corporate world as well. Everyone was pre-diabetic or diabetic. And I was just shocked that there was so much, and people just went about life without even considering that they had any control over it.
That's right. And we talked the other day about how what people think is normal, and there's a difference. Things are common, but not normal.
Yes.
It's just that they're so commonplace. These sugar addictions, especially we saw it in the corporate world. What was the treat? Cakes and cookies and
all over the office,
not
all
made
the
with
time.
date sugar or dates and protein and to balance it. It was
Real food.
Yeah, not real food at all.
Yeah.
And I do believe I always teach with my clients 80-20. 80% of the time eat what we like to say clean. I don't love that term, but meaning eat whole foods that come from Mother Earth.
Yeah.
And 20, fulfill what you need to.
Keep that little balance.
So that we don't get scared to eat.
So you just completed a self-care workshop. And self-care,
Yes.
I don't know if people understand what a significant pillar of health that is. And in self-care, there's a whole bunch of different, rabbit holes you can go into there. So tell me a little bit about that workshop that you just completed.
It was so much fun. They say you teach what you need to learn.
Yes.
And the subtitle to that workshop is that self-care is not selfish, and let's debunk that myth. And a lot of us, especially as women, were brought up that, oh, you're just thinking of yourself, or, oh, they only do what's good for them, as if this is a negative thing.
Perceived as selfish.
Yeah, and a lot of us, not everyone, but a lot of us grew up with giving to have the love. We all want to be loved and accepted. I presented that question in the workshop, and one of the answers I got was so brilliant, and it was, why do you think you give to the point of depletion, or you're saying yes when you really mean no? And it was all about, I want to be loved, I want to be accepted. And it goes back to childhood, and a lot of our stuff does. So with self-care, you're right, it is all-encompassing. Self-care can be as simple as saying no. No is a complete sentence.
Yeah.
It could be as simple as take 5 minutes and breathe, even though you have a super busy schedule and multiple kids and errands and job and whatnot. And it's really taking a moment to be mindful.
I had a health coaching client that came in and said, I'm here to save my life.
Oh.
And that was so powerful to me, because when I witnessed both of my parents, they both died what I would consider to be very young. And both of them were, in my mom's case, it was very much a lack of self-care, because she was doing for so many other people that she neglected herself, not purposefully, but because she was so giving in a good way. My father relied so much on her to take care of him.
That's right.
That he lost his own, capacity to really do that for himself later in life. And the self-care, I drive that home so much, because when you're not there to be good for yourself, when you get sick, you're not helping anybody else anymore. And my women out there who have the kids and they have, when you're taking care of yourself, your kids are happier, you're happier, you feel better, you're more connected, you're more mindful. Like there's so many things that come with taking care of yourself that trickle down to the rest of your world.
Oh, yeah. And not only that, but when you have kids, or even if you don't have kids, you're setting the example. When you are taking care of yourself in these ways,
Yes.
Just by being who you are and doing these things, other people see, oh, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
We could teach our children by telling them things, but if we're not practicing what we're saying, the kids see more of what you do and not what you say.
Absolutely.
And it happens with your family members and your friends. I've had friends change their behaviors after modeling what I do. I've noticed it.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful because it was interesting because when I did the research for this workshop, I looked up what is the definition of self-care, and I wanted to share it with you. It's activities that nourish and replenish the mind, the body, and the soul.
I love that. Straightforward.
Activities that nourish and replenish the mind, body, and the soul. And when I'm also a yoga teacher, and when I teach, I talk about filling up your cup. In other words, if you have nothing in your cup, you have nothing to give.
Yeah.
So you've got to fill up your cup first, so then you can share.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, they teach it in the airport, in the airplanes. What do they say? Take the oxygen mask
on first.
Put it on first before you put it on your children.
Definitely.
And so how else can you give? So when you give with that intention, and what your mother did is beautiful, and it was very common, and especially before women's lib in the 60s. People didn't even use the word self-care until the 60s, until women's lib. That's pretty much when people started talking about self-care and becoming more aware. But before that, mothers were, or the wives were in charge of taking care of the house, taking care of the spouse, taking care of the children, and making sure everything's okay without even paying attention to their own needs. It wasn't even a question. It was accepted, and everybody felt it was okay.
And with self-care, it's not as complicated as people make it out to be. It's like meditation. People think they have to be sitting in a room and it has to be dark and there has to be like quiet and you have to. It's about being present. And with self-care, it doesn't have to be an expensive massage. It doesn't have to be. It could be going and reading a book and taking an hour for yourself that you're setting aside. It could take 10 minutes in some cases.
I was going to say, it could be 15 minutes.
It doesn't have to be something that's costly. It's the most it's costing is your time, and that's actually not the cost. It's the reward. You're using, like you said, you're refilling that cup.
That's right.
So people don't realize how powerful.
It's so powerful.
Yes.
And it's for every
and a little
age,
bit goes a long way.
It goes a long way. I learned that the hard way. I, at one point, was exhausted. I hit adrenal fatigue, and I was a runner, and suddenly I couldn't run. And I was like, I didn't even understand what was happening. Even with all the studying, I was like, this can't be me.
Oh, yes. I know that
it
feeling.
Doesn't happen to me. And I started learning after, as I was recovering, coming back, that my mentality used to be more yang energy, more energetic, and instead of yin, which is more of a receiving feminine energy. And so my mentality was, well, if I can't work out for an hour, it's not worth it, or I'm not going to do it.
Or if you're not drenched in sweat, it's not valuable.
But I learned very well that is absolutely false. And what a freeing thing that is.
Yeah.
You can sit down for 5 minutes and breathe or stretch or do some push-ups, sit-ups, whatever it is that you need in that moment, and you will feel better.
And 3 hours of fires. For that.
And you'll feel different. You're more focused.
Yeah.
So I taught an exercise in this workshop just about putting one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. Your second brain is your belly, right? And breathing a few times, feet grounded on the floor, and then asking yourself, right? We breathe in and exhale, and then you close your eyes and you ask, what is it that I need right now? And when you listen, it will come.
And it's that simple, right? Like it can be that few minutes.
It can be
and it can interrupt what could take you down the wrong path as well. So it's pattern interruption, right? So I've caught myself before, like having anxiety or something where I'm like, hold on. where do I want to put my energy right now?
Yes.
And you can feed it, or you can, put it in a positive direction. And
agree.
it's all the same energy as far as how much you're spending.
That's right.
Right? So you put it in good or bad. Oh, gosh, I could take you down that rabbit hole. But yeah, so I see you have, a few different levels as far as what you were teaching within the self-care. So we touched on that. But health coaching in general, it's becoming more popular. It's becoming more popular for doctors' offices even. And that's like a very important thing. And I think for people to realize why, because doctors, I think the ones, if you remove the ego, they recognize that they're judged based on quantity. They're not judged based on quality of care. And we always joke around like, well, what if you were getting paid by the measurement of your patient outcomes, right? Do you think that would maybe change the circumstance?
That would make it different.
And, maybe they would focus a little less on the symptoms and the magic potions and pills and things like that, and look at this more holistic view. So some of the doctors are recognizing that they need help to help their patients have success, and that's why they're partnering up with health coaches, and it's changing the dynamic of practices and how the outcome. And they're doing tons of studies on the real validity and how it works and what kind of outcomes they're seeing.
Oh yeah,
especially with
it's
chronic disease.
Especially with quantifiable disease. I so agree with you. What I've seen even on the patient end of it. I've had doctors where I've always been inquisitive and I have questions when I come in.
They hate that.
And I've had doctors like running out the door. I don't have time to answer your questions. And I encourage everybody that I speak with, be your own advocate. You are your own advocate. Listen to your doctor, but use your intuition. If you feel like something's not right, get another opinion.
Yeah. And one of my big things is your doctor works for you. You are the one paying him, right? So somehow we get this feeling of like, we're graced with his time, and the thing is that you prepare for your appointments. You go in, you have your questions ready. If you have to hammer them out, you hammer them out. But that's like your time. That's your time.
You have the right to answer, get your questions answered. And that's where we come in as health coaches, where what happens between your appointments and you're diagnosed with something, diabetes, let's say, that, and you want to get help managing your sugars, and they give you a list of foods. Okay, go do this. Well, behaviors take a little bit more than just a list of foods to change. Sometimes you need the accountability. You want a partner, somebody you could send a text to or talk to every once in a while on a regular basis. Somebody's that's going to hold you
you're going to be able to get a hold of
accountable.
somebody when you need a question answered.
That's right, and without having come in for a whole nother appointment or maybe not having your questions answered because there's just no time. And everybody's different. We are not cookie cutters. We are all bio individuals.
Yeah.
So we have different upbringings. We have different hereditary factors, genetic factors, emotional.
Yeah.
Where we are athletically, and who do we live with, and there's so many factors. So the advantage of a health coach is that we evaluate every section of your life, so that we can cater to you.
You create a relationship.
You create a relationship.
And it's kind of, it's funny because it's becoming more of a term in nutrition world is personalized nutrition. It used to be that calories in, calories out, more exercise, less food. And it's just not that's not the reality. And the reality is everybody's different. We're all exposed to different toxins and different hormone balances in our world today. So the way that one person's responding to something is not the way another person's responding. Right. And that all of a sudden people are, oh my gosh, everything I've done normally in the past isn't working for me anymore.
Right. And certain things that are quoted as healthy might not be healthy for you. Like in Ayurveda, there's 3 different doshas. There's body types. Yeah. So what is healthy for me might be poison to you.
I did a food intolerance test, and lemon, it's like the universal alkalinity. That's what you drink in your water every day.
But if you have liver issues, it's not good. For
me, lemon does not like my body.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Me neither.
So it's
spinach doesn't like my body. And I was eating spinach a lot.
Yeah. And sometimes you just don't realize. And sometimes you can tune into it. Other times you're thinking it's common that your stomach's upset or you're bloated after you ate. Right. So you're not realizing it's not normal.
Right.
So when you really start to feel great and know the difference, that's when you start to go, wait a minute. There's something here now. I'll be like, oh, my body didn't like that. And most of us graze past that time where we don't really stop and listen.
We do, yeah. And there's also times in your life, well, you mentioned earlier that what was good for me before might not be good for me now. Our bodies do change.
Our life
over.
circumstances.
And then the circumstances also. So there could be acute issues or long-term issues. So when I work one-on-one with somebody, I do not just a food log, but a food mood log.
Yes.
So hence I'm wearing my mood ring today.
Very bright. I like it.
Thank you. But what that does is it talks about how did you feel when you started to eat? How did you feel 2 hours after? So we can get the emotional part of it and the physical part of it. It all comes into play, and it really is debunking it. It's breaking it down little by little.
Yeah, and physicians, quite frankly, are just not trained in nutrition. They're not trained in lifestyle management. And so you're not going to get that from the doctor, and you're not going to get necessarily, we're addressing sleep, we're addressing stress levels, we're addressing your daily life. What does a day look like for you? Right. What does an ideal day look like for you? Like maybe I ask the question consistently, what would it look like if I could just say, this is what your best day? People can't answer that.
Right.
They don't even know what a great day would look like for them in their imaginary world.
It's so telling.
Yeah.
And it is challenging because we get into our schedules and our responsibilities, and then we don't take enough time to imagine like what children do. It gets turned off after childhood somehow, but we need to get back to using your imagination. Yeah. And that's where the mindfulness comes in. If we consciously give ourselves the space to just stop, that you might be able to hear and see what's going on inside.
And our society makes it really difficult because in our world today, we're rewarded and it's like a badge of honor. The less sleep you get, the more work you do. If someone asks you how you are and you're actually fantastic, it's like something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Like if you don't say you're tired, you're stressed, you're busy or whatever, it's almost like you're the one that's not normal.
Right.
And I'm like, it's all how I can say I'm fantastic and still have, a cramp in my arm. I mean, it's really how you project it, right?
Right. There's a term that I love. You're the rock in the river. So when you're the rock and you're solid in your grounding and you know that you're okay at your core, even though there might be water rushing all around you, meaning your life is busy, you might have even a crisis going on, but at the core you're okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes
that faith.
That unwavering faith that I can't see the answer. I don't know what's going to happen. I have a physical issue. I have an emotional issue, a financial issue, whatever it is. Yeah. And you just go, okay.
Kind of give it up to the water.
Kind of give it up.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And, we help each other. My grandma always used to say, people need people.
Oh my goodness, we're already we could stay here all night. No, not just yet, because I want to get to make sure that they, we talked about anything to do. It's rarely anything to do with food. You and I, we could probably go on all night, guys. Yes. So any questions would have been good too. I did want to touch on where you can find Felice, because she has a lot of options between the yoga and the meditation, and then tell them a little bit about where they can find you before you wrap.
First of all, you can find me on Facebook on By Felice Wellness. I have a page where I upload different information or anything encouraging. Sometimes it's nutritional, sometimes it's spiritual, just depending on the mood that day. Usually, a lot of times I put up there what I need to learn, or somebody close to me. And you can go on my website, byfelicewellness.com, and you can get on my mailing list where you'll get recipes and certain information that you won't see on Facebook.
Okay.
And you can also sign up for a 30-minute complimentary wellness clarity session. So if you want to see if we're a good fit and talk and get some questions answered.
Fantastic. Where can they get that?
Right on the website. There's a short little form to fill out, and then we'll put you on the schedule.
Yeah, if you want to check out and see if it's something where you'd want to work with Felice, at least get that initial kind of a conversation going. Thank you so much. We probably have to have a part two.
All right.
So have a great night, everybody. Thank you so very much for tuning in.
Thank you.
And reach out to myself or Felice. And don't forget, your bloodsugarbootcamp.com is also still out there for my diabetic friends and pre-diabetes. Have a good one. Thank you for joining me on Quality Living with Leslie, where we help you know better so you can do better to be the best version of yourself. For more information, you can find me at leslieharrington.net. That's leslieharrington.net. Have a great week.